Okay, well, thank you. Thanks, Cody. Well, good morning. I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is November the 1st, 2022 council meeting. We do have all members present of council with Mayor Robinson is regrets today. So I will be chairing today's meeting. I just want to make mention that we do have a large agenda to the council members. So if we can just watch our time, because we do need to get through all of this so that nothing's put into the next term. With that, I am going to ask Madam CAO to introduce a new staff member. Madam CAO.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Council, and all of our guests this morning. I'd like to introduce our new clerk. Jamie Eckenswiller has joined us effective yesterday. So we're very excited to have him on board, and he's ready to go. He's already corrected me on a number of things, so he's doing his job.
And I'm sure we'll get some corrections today as well. That takes us to item number 2, is moment of reflection. And I do want to mention that we're very saddened to hear the passing of Mr. Bob Miller, and condolences to the entire Miller family. So if I could ask everyone to take a moment of reflection, please. Okay, thank you, folks. Number 3 is declaration of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Members of council, anything to declare at this time? Councillor Hutchison, go ahead, please.
Yes, I'll have a conflict of interest on item 8.1, public meeting, agenda item 5, under regarding Anderson, as my property backs onto the client's property. So at that point, I'll just decline to vote at that point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so item number 4 is delegations. In accordance with the West Grey procedural bylaw, each delegation shall be limited to speaking to not more than 10 minutes, and presentations that are requested by council shall have a time limit as determined between the clerk and presenter. 4.1 delegation, Lydia Dake and Elizabeth Murray, Climate Action Advisory Committee year-end report. And just got to push the button and it should be live.
Okay. I think we're starting with Lydia.
We're good to go? All right. Good morning. My name is Lydia Dick. And good morning, Mr. Chair and councillors. I'm the chair of the Climate Action Advisory Committee for West Grey, and I'm co-presenting today with the wonderful Liz Murray, who is a member also of the CAAC, and I will be using that short form for the rest of the presentation. It is good to be here, and it's great to be able to speak with you, the current council, who we have had the honor of working with this past term. Also, we want to think ahead, as all sustainability lenses must, to the future. So today we will provide a recap of our year, as well as to provide a bit of discussion on what the committee will offer going forward. So as always, it's important to inform our conversations with some context. So to begin, we will run through a brief history of climate action in West Grey, and I will let Liz take that away.
Okay, thanks, Lydia. So a brief history. A group of people met with council in July 2019 and requested that council declare a climate emergency in West Grey. Following month, that was done. A few months later, in October 2019, the Sustainability Committee was formed. The committee did actually design a few projects with budgets, but concurrently, COVID hit. And so the committee's work was suspended for a little while. In 2021, the current committee, the Climate Action Advisory Committee, was formed and the Climate Action Plan became under development. Very recently, West Grey has hired Sarah Hansen as Environment and Capital Projects Officer to assist with climate action planning. Also recently, waste diversion was given a focus, and single-use plastics, film, and polystyrene foam is now recycled. Another project completed was a deteriorating cement bridge on Concession 2 was replaced with a wooden bridge, following green technologies and materials in construction as well. And I think right now, electric vehicle charging stations are being installed in West Grey. Next. Okay, the current committee. This is the citizens team members, but I'll take just a second to thank the council members that assisted us and guided us with great advice throughout. We appreciate it. Councillors Hamilton and Shea. The citizen team members are our very capable chair, Lydia Dick, Lee Papineau, Nikki May, Eric Saunders, Jessica Pelchat, and me. So work completed by the committee during 2022. We did provide advisory support and feedback to staff. One big example of that is after a meeting with Planner Spencer, members of the committee did some very thorough research on climate issues and practices and gave that feedback to Planner Spencer to be included in the draft official plan for West Grey. We've been working with Grey County Council as well, or Grey County rather as well. We reviewed their climate action plan, which I think is called Green in Grey. And we've been giving them through their manager, Linda Swanston, information about what we're doing as far as climate action planning goes. A large sort of initiative that's been started. West Grey engaged ICLEI. ICLEI is an international consulting firm that advises lower tier governments on environmental issues, and it's working with hundreds of communities, counties and municipalities across Canada. This particular initiative is to measure and reduce greenhouse gases in West Grey corporate assets. For the larger audience, I'll just briefly explain that. The corporate assets for West Grey includes its real property like community centers and halls and its machinery and vehicles. And so there at the moment that the greenhouse gas emissions are being mapped. That mapping will be analyzed, and from the analysis a plan will be developed to reduce those greenhouse gases. That plan will be just rolled right into the ongoing maintenance plan for the West Grey corporate assets. So in fact, it's not just a sort of a green plan, it's a very economic plan as well. Another initiative, and we met with ICLEI about 6 weeks ago, is one of their initiatives called BARC. Now BARC stands for Building Adaptive and Resilient Communities. This committee decided that we would not ask council to engage with them at the moment. We feel that we're staff and the committee members, we're developing good relationships with communities around West Grey, with the municipalities, with Grey County, and we feel that we can proceed with very effective climate action planning at this point on our own. With regard to education, we hosted a carbon workshop whereby the counselors were participants in the workshop, and this was to advance education and understanding of climate action plan. It had a broader audience, of course, because the workshop was on Zoom. With regard to communications, we're working and really enjoying working with CAO Johnston, with communications coordinator Sheila Ferguson, and with community and corporate initiatives manager Cody Hewlett. And finally, with network representation, particularly our member Nikki May is a member of the Grey Bruce Climate Action Network, and this is providing West Grey with very fulfilling cross-pollination and collaborations. So that's my part, and I'm going to hand it over to the very capable Lydia Dick. in Manitoba. Thank you all.
Thank you, Liz. I just want to take a quick second to step back and reflect on what made our committee be able to perform well this year. As Liz mentioned earlier, we were appointed in January 2022, and we spent a good amount of energy right at the beginning to form cohesion, both as a group and as well as in our goals for the year. We worked really well together and were able to consistently meet our committee requirements. This cohesion also, as you can imagine, led to peer-to-peer learning, subsequently brainstorming, subsequently getting stuff done. And this was definitely strengthened by the diversity of our skill sets, as you may have seen at the beginning with all of our photos there. And it has been really rewarding, like Liz has been mentioning, to work with staff on many of our initiatives as well. And we're really happy to report that they are supportive of our work and looking forward to continuing to develop those partnerships going forward. So I can look at the next slide. Let's talk about the future. As you previously heard, the CAAC is well positioned to continue the type of work that it has begun this year. We will continue to provide best practice advisory on larger scale systems such as local food systems, energy systems and cost saving measures, as well as waste management, circular economies, and also large planning items such as official plans and the continued climate action plan. We will continue to provide research support in partnerships with staff and look at where synergies can exist in municipal planning and operations, drawing on examples from other municipalities and local government initiatives. As a citizens committee, we are also uniquely positioned to engage the community, local businesses and residents, engage them with climate measures and opportunities for cost-saving projects, for example. Similarly, we would be able to support staff in communications and amplification of West Grey's programming and initiatives, as well as some new initiatives. And finally, we would assist in event planning to further engage residents and staff in education measures and local climate action. So interestingly, these areas of community action we have included are important items in the Grey County Climate Action Plan. And just to inform others listening, the Grey County Plan includes West Grey. So we are part of that Going Green in Grey plan. So these pieces include nature-based solutions in agriculture, climate adaptation, and outreach and engagement. And in general has a focus on community health and localized action and adaptation. Though, like Liz said, we did advise that West Grey not take up the second program offered by ICLEI, the BARC program. It seemed to make sense to focus on the climate action plan first. However, the elements of that program are very important. They highlight the need for climate adaptation, not just mitigation. And from a practical standpoint, just to briefly get into it, adaptation means developing infrastructure, which is both traditional and natural infrastructure, in preparation for increasing storms, as well as marketing our local farms to support food security in West Grey, or even encouraging homeowners and businesses to consider energy savings measures in their buildings. So this committee would offer significant assistance in the implementation of these action items, which are required through the Grey County Climate Action Plan. And we want to acknowledge that staff will be the ones implementing these measures, which makes partnerships between staff and the CAAC even more crucial. And we are very happy to work with them and share those tasks. So going to our last slide, we want to conclude by encouraging the existing and the new council stepping forward to consider the following skill sets in the future CAAC team: sustainability knowledge and acumen, environmental conservation and management knowledge, marketing and communication skills, research and analytical skills, and an understanding of climate change implications. These skill sets, combined with the unique position as a citizens committee, allows the CAAC to provide professional advisory services, communications, networking, and staff assistance through a solid sustainability lens, using that diverse range of skill sets. We provide a unique resource to the municipality as it works toward resiliency in response to its original declaration of a climate emergency. So I really appreciate all of your time this morning, and I look forward to our continued conversation and future communication. So I want to ask if there are any questions at this time.
Okay, thank you, ladies, for your presentation this morning. I think it's really good to see that you've been very active. You know, COVID certainly didn't stop the momentum there. And I do want to say that I did sit on the Grey County Task Force, Climate Action Task Force, and we have fulfilled our mandate. One of the things there that we did ask was that they continue to work with the lower tiers, and that's all lower tiers, as well as specifically this one here is what I had asked for, to reach out to this committee in the next term. So we've asked that maybe next term, at the start of the next term, they come out and do some presentations on what work's been done at Grey County, so that everybody's aware of the activity there. This time I'm going to look for any council members have any comments or questions. Go ahead, Councilor Hamilton.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just want to say thank you to our presenters today. And as one of the council members on the committee, just what a pleasure and an honor to work with you, and how much learning and growth I've done through connecting with our citizens in the community. You're an inspiration to me as in my work at council. And you've moved the needle forward on climate action for the first time ever in this council term. So thank you for that. We know climate change will be affecting every single one of us in our homes, in our businesses, our economy, our municipal infrastructure. And we know, this will save our municipality money by funding these efficiencies in our buildings and our fleet and our services, and will enable us to apply for grants as the federal grants require that climate lens. And so we're going to be well positioned in the next years to come to be successful with our climate action and saving money as well. So thank you everyone for your participation on the committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Hamilton. Any other comments? Councilor Shea, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair. And thanks both for your presentation. I'm also a representative on that committee, but I was struck by the professionalism that you have conducted yourselves with and the professionalism of this presentation. You clearly have understood the important relationship between committees, council and staff, and are respecting those roles and working effectively within them. I was also very impressed, but somewhat impressed that you analyzed an opportunity to get involved in an activity beyond the climate plan, which was to look at possibly engaging in the BARC process as well, and felt that it was not within the municipality's capability to expand the mandate in that direction at this time. So I thought that was very reasonable and appreciated show of restraint and appropriate deployment of resources and scope. So again, thanks for all the hard work that you're doing. And I'll just also mention Chair Dick, that it's nice to see a wide demographic range of participation on this committee. We often hear talk about wanting to get younger people involved in the municipal governance structure. We see that happening with this committee. So I think you guys are just firing on all cylinders. Thank you.
Thank you. Your mic's still on, Councilor Shea. Any other comments or questions from council? Councilor Hurd, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you to the committee. We, West Grey Council, has heard you speak. We've seen you do your research. We've seen you collaborate with others and get bigger. We've seen you look out to FCM projects, get us ready for the next 4 years. So thank you very much for all of your hard effort, and West Grey will benefit from it. Thanks so much for your energy.
Thank you. Okay, I see no other council members have any comments or questions. Thank you very much for your delegation. Have a wonderful day. You're more than welcome to stay and enjoy the rest of the meeting. That takes us to the next item, which is number 5, public meetings. That's NA today on today's agenda. Number 6 is comment period. In accordance with the West Gray procedural bylaw, comments may be made to council with respect to a specific agenda item. A maximum of 2 minutes per person is allocated for comments, with a maximum of 10 minutes for total for the total comment period. So number 6, is there any comments? Go ahead, please. And you just have to, Marion, if you just state your name for the record as well, please. Thank you.
I saw the green light and thought, oh, we're good. Oh, there we go. Now yeah, okay. It's Marion Ratcliffe. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. Just here to say thank you to all of our council members for the last 4 years. I've been listening in through the COVID. You've probably heard my disembodied voice now and then, but I have been to actually almost every one of your meetings. Sometimes I've agreed with you. Sometimes I haven't agreed with you. Sometimes I've had my head on the table wondering what the are you guys doing? But all with due respect, because the one thing I know is I couldn't sit there where you are. So for those that are going to be back next term, I'll see you there. You know, I'll be either listening in through Zoom or here in chambers. To those that aren't coming back, best luck for, I know at least one who's going off to school. But I'm sure you'll all find something to do in the community. By the way, I don't know if Dark Sky Committee is coming back next term, but we'll be looking for people. So there's always room for you somewhere helping the community. Anyways, again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? And go ahead, Mr. Hewitt.
I just have one member from the public who is present on Zoom who would like to speak.
Okay, we have a member online or a public. I couldn't hear you, Cody. The mic was out, sorry.
My apologies. I have one member of the public who would like to speak who's online via Zoom. That member is by the name of Anne. And if you want to unmute your mic and state your name for the record as well as your comment, you can go ahead.
Yep, please go ahead.
Certainly. Thank you very much. My name is Ann Hicks, and I'd like to speak positively on behalf of item 11.1.2, which then references bylaw 88-2022. It has to do with the speed limit on Side Road 5 by my home. I personally have almost been nailed a couple of times with people speeding on this road. We have a very bad blind spot from our road, which is Kingston Drive, onto Side Road 5. So I've had that experience. I know a number of my neighbors have had that experience. I myself had the pleasure of going door to door knocking, getting people to sign the petition that's referenced in the supporting documents. And to a person, they were ecstatic about somebody taking initiative and getting this done. Residents that have lived here longer than I have experienced this problem for a long time, and we're very happy that hopefully something was going to be done to rectify that problem soon. So just want to speak in support of that item coming up on your agenda. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you very much. Any other member or people in the community need to speak there today? Cody, that you have on yours?
No, that concludes the members I have online.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience have any other comments, questions? No? Okay, thank you. All right, that'll move us on to number 7, unfinished business. I believe that is NA for today. Item number 8 is adoption of minutes. Councillor Hutchison has confirmed a conflict under 8.1. So what we'll be looking for is 8.1. Is there any comments or questions from council? Okay, 8.2. Any comments or questions from council? Councillor Herger, go ahead. That's 8.2, right?
I do have a question on page 39 in our agenda. The staff report, it requests for council permission of a minor variance. This motion is moved, seconded, carried, and there's actually no identifying markers such as an address or a property legal description. So I think we should have a little bit more there just so that we are very clear about what property we're dealing with in the staff report on page 39 in today's agenda.
Madam CA, do you want to, do I go to you for that one, or do I go to Kirk Eckenswiller?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you, Councillor Hergert. If we could, Mr. Chair, perhaps we could go to our planner. She would have this information at her fingertips, and we can adopt this as amended then.
Okay, that's why I came to you. So we go to Planner Spencer is virtual, I'm assuming. Morning, Planner Spencer. Did you hear the question okay?
I did, yes. So this is with respect to the Trumbull Modular Home Park. An individual has requested to build an accessory structure that was not permitted under the current zoning related to MH, the MH Mobile Home Park Zone. I do understand and appreciate Councillor Herger's comments, and we can provide more detail with respect to the legal description of the property, but that was to request a minor variance within the 2-year period under the Planning Act. You have to have council permission in order to pass that minor variance, and council needs to deem that acceptable prior to a minor variance being considered by the Committee of Adjustment. I'm happy to clarify further as required. Thank you.
Thank you, Planner Spencer. Follow up.
Sure. If you could just give the address, location of the property, that would be what I'm looking for clarity.
Sure. If you just bear with me for one moment, I can provide that. Thank you.
Will you have any other comments on this one or okay. Well, I was going to recommend maybe wait when we're waiting for Planner Spencer to get that, we can go into 8.3 October 3rd public meeting, if that's suitable. And then we can come back to that when the planner looks up that address. Is there any comments or questions on that item, 8.3 specifically? Okay. Then we'll go to 8.4 October 4th council meeting. Comments or questions on that one? Okay, now we'll go back and wait for the Planner Spencer to get the actual address under 8.2 for you. And then we'll go to Clerk Eckenschroeder to read the recommendation, and we'll be looking for a mover secretary to pass them. Okay.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Planner Spencer.
So the address relative to the property is 199381 Unit 4 Meadows Drive, which is Part Lot 61, Concession 1, NDR, Registered Plan 17R14 and 17R1496, Part 1. And that's in the geographic township of Bentic.
Thank you, Planner Spencer. Councillor Hergert.
I could be wrong on this. Douglas Anderson is the zoning amendment 1422, which is the next motion entirely and next resolution number 347. So I'm looking for the address on 346, resolution 346-2022.
Just one moment, please.
Yep, take your time.
Through you, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Planner Spencer.
So the application at hand with respect to Mr. Arthur Douglas Anderson does not have a described municipal address at this point, but the legal description of the property is Survey Edges, Part Block C, which is roll number 4205-260-0020-2002 within the town of Durham. Thank you.
You go now? Okay, thank you, Planner Spencer. Okay, any other comments or questions from council? No? Clerk Controller, if you could read the recommendation, please.
Through the chair, that the minutes of the August 8th, 2022 public meeting, September 6th, 2022 regular council meeting as amended to include the legal description in item 11.1.1, October 3rd, 2022 public meeting, and October 4th, 2022 regular council meeting are hereby approved as circulated and as amended.
Thank you. Could I get a mover, please? Councillor Hamilton, and could I get a seconder? And that's Councillor Townsend. Comments or questions on the recommendation from council members? Seeing none, we'll call the vote. All those in favor, could raise your hand, please. So see all members are in favor, excluding Councillor Hutchison, who's declared a conflict. That motion's passed. Thank you. Okay, item number 9 on today's agenda is committee and board reports. So there's a little, some, quite a bit of action in this one here. So I'm going to ask Clerk Eckert-Switter to kind of just do a summary of how we're going to handle it, because the recommendation for all of these committees is actually at the very end. So recommendation was kind of, we can go through each one, and then anything that we want to add, and again, Clerk will explain this, we can add to the final recommendation on the bottom, any adjustments or amendments. Clerk Sweller, please.
Through the deputy mayor to members of council, all board and committee minutes will be received at the end of item 9.9. As there are no specific recommendations for items 9.1 through 9.5, council can proceed to item 9.6. If council would like to take any action on anything contained within items 9.6 through 9.9, a motion would be required to do so.
Thank you. Is that better, Madam CEO? Okay. Okay, so 9.1 is climate actions. Any comments, questions on that one? Okay, 9.2 climate action advisory again. Seeing none. 9.3 West Gray economic development. Seeing none. 9.4 climate action advisory. 9.5 Durham BIA. Moving right along. 9.6. Now I think we're going to have a little bit of a boom. Here we go. So 9.6. So there's several recommendations. So I guess the easiest way, because there is quite a bit of correspondence, not only just with this one, but with some of the other ones, is if there's something specific you want to pull instead of going through reading the recommendations for all of them. If you want that, we can certainly do that, sir. Do that with a lengthy discussion on that. But if there's a specific item under one of the recommendations that you're reading here that's before us, that again is publicly posted, we can discuss each one. And at the end, Clerk Eckert-Switter, you're going to just capture what we as we go, correct? Okay. And I did see Councillor Hergert's hand go up. So this is for item 9.6, which again, we're talking about the Ayton and Area Recreation Advisory Committee. Go ahead,
Yes,
Councillor
thank you.
Hergert.
The first recommendation, I am going to just take my time and work through each one of these, and anybody can jump in whenever they like, as per the chair. The staff member be paid and present at all future meetings to accurately reflect the required procedural taking of minutes at each meeting. I can see that's been done in some committees and it works very effective. That communication comes forward and then we have that for the historical record of what happened in West Gray in 2022. So I think that's important. That'll have to be a discussion with the next council about how they set up their committees and so on. Really, the idea of putting all of these recommendations together is after having sat with each other for 4 years, this is where we see the needs in Ayton Recreation specifically. Next recommendation, that West Gray Council and staff consider creating a set of guidelines, goals, and procedures in a practical form pertinent to each group to be shared with each volunteer committee at the beginning of each council mandate. This effective communication tool could result in an easier navigation for the volunteer groups working together to build a stronger West Grey community and encourage more participation. This committee found sometimes throughout the term that there were legal legislative requirements, there's staffing requirements, and then there's volunteer requirements, and they weren't always lining up what was needed and then how to get it delivered out to the community. So I think that's a very important recommendation that the next council take forward. Ayton and Area Rec Advisory Committee recommends considering the 2023 budget items. Obviously, these will have to be put to the next council, but Centennial Hall renovations, making sure that there's 3 sinks for proper dishwashing there, you know, to follow public health guidelines. There's only 2 sinks there. We can't really even wash things there. So it becomes a need if we're going to rent it and follow those public health guidelines. Anyway, there's further budget recommendations. I'm on page 3 there of the agenda. Just moving through. Obviously, recommendations. There's number 3 says $10,000 busing kids from Ayton up to Durham or Mildmay for swimming opportunities. I think it's really important when we have a lot of ponds, pools, riverways that we're teaching life-saving skills as well. And as recreation is set up right now, we have those opportunities in Durham. How do we get those out, spread out to other areas, or bringing kids on into Durham to utilize our facilities that we have here? Let's see, next recommendation. Busing for kids. Obviously, the Ayton Recreation Group wants to do more, but was limited somewhat. Obviously, COVID, right? We just shut everything down for a while. Number 2 was bleachers. That was an item that has been ongoing throughout this term. There's really no place to sit. There's 2 older sets of bleachers, and at one point, the Ayton Recreation Group had asked staff here at West Grey to bring down the bleachers from Durham just for the ball tournament in August. And while that was able to happen, it doesn't really facilitate using the ball diamond more often throughout the rest of the summertime. Number 3 was the swimming. Number 4, a tennis court behind the Ayton Arena. They want some revitalization so that they could, you know, a lot of this is stuff we already have, maybe hasn't been maintained over the years and really just needs to be tidied up and made to look really nice. Obviously, that will cost funding, which is a budget consideration for next term. Continuing on there, the request is for the lighting of the Christmas tree, November 19th, with a chili cook-off, baking contest, Holstein Bells, and a resident, Mr. Art Dom, to light the Christmas tree. So that's a recommendation that I would like council to look at today, is to approve the November 19th Christmas tree lighting at Centennial Hall, along with the other part of the recommendations there. Number 3, pardon me, this is recommendation that council is made aware of the following dates and activities in 2023 for Ayton, including snow volleyball outside of Centennial Hall. They want to have outdoor volleyball, slow pitch games. That one I would say is a budget discussion. The first one would be, would council approve an event for next year? Probably not. We'll probably leave that to the next term. Number 2 there is a budget consideration. I would recommend just hold off to next term. The annual family slow pitch tournament for August. I asked the committee to put in the dates that we have events going on. That way we can ask council for whatever we need. These are the dates that they have events. I would just recommend that we take up the November 19th Christmas tree lighting for this year and leave the rest of the budget discussion to next council. And that would be my recommendation.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hergert. And just wanted to check, Clerk Eckert, if you captured the majority of that. There's some budget items, obviously we know where those are going to land, but one was specific for, I guess, an action plan now.
Certainly, through you, Deputy Mayor. So correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Hergert, it was just the motion that council approved the following recommendation regarding the lighting of the village Christmas tree on November 19th and everything contained there under.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions from council members on this one? Councillor Shay, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for the recommendation forward, Councillor.
You have to pull your mic forward there, Councillor Shay. You're doing what I was doing. I was flashing.
Test. Okay. Have we had to approve the lighting of the Christmas tree ceremony in the past? I don't remember that being a council decision. I thought it was just something that happened.
Go to Madam CEO for that, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes, Councillor Shay, the reason that this is before you for recommendation is they're requesting additional expenditures that go beyond what we've traditionally done for Christmas tree lighting, such as the rental of the team of horses, prize money for baking contests. I think those are and the village chili cook-off. I'm not clear if that was done before. Mr. Hewlett would know. Okay.
Okay, thank you. I understand. And I would support that when it comes to a vote. But I did want to ask our new clerk, and welcome, it's nice to meet you. The first two items here are about the effectiveness and efficiency of committees. West Grey tends to have more volunteer citizen committees than some other municipalities. And I know previous clerks have sort of struggled with how to make those committees work as efficiently and effectively as possible. I wonder if you have experience with committees and sort of empowering them and reining them in at the same time. I don't know if that's too contradictory, because those first two items seem like something that would sort of fall to your department to come up with a strategy to how about training and that sort of thing. Just wondered if you had a comment about that. Don't mean to put you on the spot.
Through the deputy mayor to the member, thank you for the question. So my experience with committees has been good in the past. I do have extensive experience with that, and what I've found to be effective is so long as they're trained well in matters of procedure and the municipality's procedural bylaw, that's half the battle there, and then just getting them comfortable with actually taking minutes and things of that nature goes a long way.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shane. Councillor Hamilton, go ahead, please.
Thank you. And thank you, Councillor Hergert, for sharing as a member of the committee. Thank you for sharing those details. Just a question to our CEO regarding the recommendation about the Christmas. I'm a little concerned about a team of horses, just the liability and perhaps the cost. So I guess some of the asks, like the team of horses, doesn't have an actual amount. So I don't know what I'm approving. And I don't have, that's less than a month away. So I don't have comfort in that specific item. But I would just like to touch base with CAO Johnston if she has any comments on the Christmas item. Thank you.
Madam CEO.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Councillor Hamilton. I have no further information. I don't know if Mr. Hewlett has had an opportunity to speak with the committee or the chair about this ask. It is a new ask, and there's not a lot of time. So I'm suspecting that the committee probably has information that they're waiting to share with staff on council's approval.
And if I may, I believe a couple of years ago, I did see a horse-drawn wagon in and I don't know how all that worked, but I do recall seeing that. And maybe I can go to Councillor Hergert, and then I'll come over to Mr. Hewlett, or you have a comment now, and then I'll go over to Councillor Hergert. Go ahead.
If I may, through you, Mr. Chair, the Ayton Rec Committee, I'll say, has used a team of horses in the past as part of the village Christmas tree lighting. The reason this is in front of council today is as though it appears from the minutes that the request would be for additional expenditures to come from the municipal budget as opposed to the Ayton Rec Committee budget.
Councillor Hergert, did you have a comment?
I guess I didn't see that we were asking for that from our council money. I know that we have money saved up for Ayton Recreation from fundraise money. So is it not something that we could approve a $500 limit used from Ayton Recreation fundraise money? I think that would be suitable.
See Mr. Hewlett's hand. Go ahead, please.
With that being said, my understanding from reading the minutes, and thank you for the clarification, that it was to come from council. However, if you are confirming that it's coming from the Ayton Rec Committee, in the past, council has not approved their expenditures previously as it was fundraising dollars.
Okay, I have a question. Let's break that apart a little bit. So Ayton Recreation has fundraised money. That all goes into a pot of money and they decide what they do with it. They're coming to us today saying, we would like to have a village Christmas party and we want horses and we want money for the baking contest and so on. How is it that we would not approve the writing of a $500 check to Ayton Rec to say, go ahead with your Christmas event? I don't know.
Okay, with too many mics on here. I'm going to go to Madam CAO for a response, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And we can also bring our treasurer into this conversation. My understanding is you are correct that the money, the fundraising money is, the committee has the authority to request how to allocate those funds. Staff need direction from council to be able to do that. The committee doesn't have the power to spend the money, but council has the power to give staff the direction on what to allocate it toward. And from my reading of this, this is what this committee would like to allocate some of that funding for this Christmas event. And I see Director Mighton, so she can probably expand.
Okay, I am going to go to Director Mighton and then I'll come back to you, Councillor. Director Mighton, go ahead, please, and good morning.
Thank you, through you, Chair. I think the clarity that is needed is that they the request didn't confirm that they wanted it from their recreation fundraising reserves. So that approval is just that they're asking that it be from their fundraising reserves, and council can approve that. What is lacking from the motion is that it doesn't say it was they were asking it from reserves versus from council's tax levy.
Thank you, Director Mighton. Councillor, go ahead, please.
So being in attendance at this meeting and knowing the wishes of the committee is to have a Christmas event, November 19th, I would move a motion that we approve the use of $500 from Ayton Recreation fundraising to be spent on the Ayton Village Christmas tree lighting and activities.
Okay, so I'm going to go over to Clerk Eckenswiller just to make sure you captured that. And again, we're going to put that into the recommendation at the end of all this. Is that what we're still staying on that plan? We're going to do a different one right now. I thought we were going to batch them all.
Through the Deputy Mayor, I think this is the cleanest way of going about it. So I'll just restate the motion there. So that council approved the following recommendation regarding lighting of the village Christmas tree on November 19th at Centennial Hall to be funded from the Ayton Recreation Reserve. The rental of a team of horses to drive people around the village gathering in the Centennial Hall for the annual chili cook-off, $100 for prizes for baking contests, involve the Holstein Bells to sing Christmas songs outside, and invite Mr. Art Dom, a 98-year-old village resident, to light our tree.
Okay, has that captured everything? Oh, sorry, Madam Seal.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. I would recommend that we just add the word Ayton Recreation Fundraising Reserve.
It's captured it? Okay. Councillor Hutchison, go ahead, please.
I'll second that, but I do have a comment too, for me.
I was gonna, okay, for clarity, I just want to go back to Clerk Eckenswiller that we're going to do this as on its own motion is what, so then I'm assuming you want to move that one then, Councillor Herger, so I can put you down as a mover. And we'll take you as a seconder. And now I will take your question. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so yeah, I think it would have made it simpler if they could have broken down some of the costs. Like I've been involved in Frazzle Fest in Durham where we actually brought in a horse and team, sleigh ride, wagon ride, whatever. And then we bought additional insurance for liability and whatnot. So it might have been easier if they had said $300 for the team of horses, $100 for insurance, just to give us a better idea. Because we're saying $500, but I'm not sure if that's even going to cover it. But I mean, that's what they got to work with, right? So yeah. So I'm fine with that. I just thought it'd be a little clearer, and especially with some of the recommendations when coming forward for budget, it would be nice for them to say, you know, we want to spend $10,000 on kitchen renovations. We'll put up 5,000 from our rec committee, and we're asking council for 5,000. So just to clarify what we're looking at, right? So that makes it simpler. So that's all. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on the recommendations before us? And again, that's specific to this one item here. Seeing none, does anybody need the recommendation read again, or are we all clear on it? Okay, we're clear. So we'll call to vote. All those in favor, just raise your hand, please. I see all members are in favor and none opposed. That motion's carried. Is there any other comments or questions on this specific item? And again, this is 9.6. Councillor Hamilton.
If I may, through you to our clerk, just looking for procedure for some of these items could be considered perhaps under budget deliberations. So should some of these be deferred by this council so that they can be considered by the next council, or what would you recommend? Thank you.
Through the chair, certainly that is council's wish. If they'd like to consider those matters today, provided there is money in the budget for that, then it would be at your prerogative. Alternatively, you could not take any action on these or defer them to the next term for the next council to decide.
Councillor Hamilton.
Sure. There's a couple items I'd like to defer to a subsequent budget meeting. Let me just see what numbers those were. Just one moment, please. And this is specific to the Eaton committee. Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Okay, so and they're not numbered, but there's a recommendation that a staff member be paid and present. I'd like to see that one deferred to a future budget meeting. They have a recommendation for the 2023 budget, and there's quite a few items there. That entire recommendation should be at a subsequent budget meeting, please. I think that's it. And I hope that's clear for our clerk. I'm sorry, there's no numbers here for me to reference. Thank you.
If I may, would it be, could we maybe just say all budget related items on the recommendations? Would that would capture everything?
Oh, sorry, I just kicked you, sorry. Yeah, any remaining budget items, yeah, that haven't been dealt with, be on a future budget meeting. Yep, that works.
Thank you. I think it captures it. Clerk Atkins-Fine.
Through the mayor to members of council. So what I have from that is moved by Councillor Hamilton that all outstanding budget requests contained within item 9.6 be deferred to the 2022 to 2026 council budget meeting.
Be the 2023 budget meeting. No.
My apologies. Yes, the 2023 budget meeting.
Thank you. Yeah, that works. Thanks.
Is it all? So we do have it moved by Councillor Hamilton. Councillor Townsend, you seconding that? Okay, I see that. Is there any other comments or questions on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, you can raise your hand, please. I see all members are in favor, none opposed. That motion is carried. Okay, any other comments or questions specifically? And I'm going to go to Councillor Hutchinson first. Go ahead, please.
So the next item on under the Ayton request is council aware of the following dates for activities in 2023. I don't know if there's really any action there. I guess we're sort of taking those dates as they've given to us. They may change as time goes on, but I guess we can put them in our calendar for now. So it's just sort of an awareness thing. But they do have a recommendation at the bottom there about consider and approve the recruitment of a variety of new members when the committees are reappointed. I don't know whether we really need to act on that recommendation because that's something that we would do, the CAO would do that at a later date when we start the new term, right? So I'm not sure if we need to really respond to that recommendation at this point. It's just sort of a fact, I think.
Well, you could put a motion forward to take that out too at this time, if that's what you to remove that. Well, let me go to Madam CAO on that first, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair, any of the other recommendations, and I agree, Councillor Hutchinson, some of these are more information items than requests for action. You can just receive them, and that then the committee will understand that you've acknowledged the receipt of them. You know, for example, the very last one, that would be something that we would try to do through our advertising and recruitment process for committees anyway. So I think just receiving the remaining items would work.
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor.
So I would make a motion that the remaining items under Ayton Recreation Committee be received for information.
So I have that moved by Councillor Hutchinson. Get a seconder, please. Counselor Townsend? Anybody need that recommendation read back to them? Oh, Counselor Herger, go ahead, please.
And that I don't want these dates to be lost. I know that typically I've gone to our committee and said, if we need a special event permit, that we would fill it out based on this. The snow volleyball usually has had a liquor alcohol permit. Obviously the family ball tournament does. So there will be some work that needs to be done, maybe staff side coordinating with these committees in the future, but we can just take these as received.
May I comment?
Counselor Hutchinson, sure. Go ahead.
Sorry, my mic was still on. Just a recommendation. I know we do have a community calendar on our website, and I don't think it gets used maybe as much as we could, but this would be an opportunity to plug those in at this point. They like I say, they may change as time goes on, but at least we've captured them. So if we put them right into our community calendar, then we have them to refer to in the future. So thank you.
So you're adding that to your motion then? That you put forward? Because that is an action item, or Madam CEO, maybe we need that detailed.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Some of these dates are tentative, so, and I think we need to be mindful that the new council may decide to structure recreation differently. And even though these dates may not get lost, it might not be called the Ayton, it might just be West Grey Recreation. So I take a pause on populating the calendar right now, but I do take Councillor Hergert's comments that we can't lose sight, and so staff will reach out to the committee as it is.
Okay. Clerk Atkins, whatever, you could read the motion, please, because we've had some dialogue after.
Through mayor to members of council, that council receive all outstanding items under 9.6 for information purposes.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Call the motion. All those in favor, you raise your hand, please. All members are in favor, none opposed. That motion is also carried. Okay, so is there any other comments or questions on 9.6 specifically? Okay, so we are going to move on to the next item, and that's 9.7, Gardens and Green Spaces Advisory Committee, September 22nd, 2022. And there's a couple recommendations in there. Does anybody like to take the lead on this one? Councillor Hutchinson, go ahead, please.
Yeah, just to give you some added information. I am on this committee as a council rep. So we have a group of people that have done a lot of work on flower beds in Durham, particular because of the celebration, 150th celebration this year. There's a very active Busy Bees group in Ayton that looks after a lot of things down there. And Newstead is sort of some of the committee members help out with there, and somewhat in Elmwood. So they're basically what they're recommending in the first part is that some of the flower beds over the years have become sort of overgrown and unmanageable. And so we have a number of volunteers who have been working on them, cleaning out weeds, moving flowers around, whatnot. So we've made some recommendations in terms of to staff, and CA will maybe follow up on this, but we've had a number of discussions about what they recommend in terms of going forward to try to get a handle on some of the flower beds that have become overgrown and unmanageable. So that's in that, and we have a list that we've sent in. The list isn't here. It might be in the agenda. I've seen it somewhere. So there's a list there of some of the flower beds that we suggested. And the understanding is, as we talked with the CEO and she's talked to Public Works, that it's something that will hopefully take place in the spring. Didn't look like they had the manpower to start this year, but basically working with Public Works, this committee wants to sort of scale back, move some flower beds, do some work on it. So that's sort of the recommendation. It mentions Julie Wilson's appointed to report with staff, and she's done that. We've met with our CAO and done some work. So they've done a lot of work over the last couple of years, but there's lots more to come. So they're just looking for council's understanding that there is a committee that's working on trying to better the floral beds in West Grey. That's basically the first recommendation.
Do you have any comments on the second one?
Well, the second one is basically this committee also makes recommendations to council and done a lot of work with Cody in particular regarding decorations for the Christmas season. And so they've requested some monies to buy, which is passed, and it works through the Public Works, whatever other budget we managed to use to buy some materials to decorate for Christmas. So that's basically what the second recommendation is, with the exception that Ayton mentions that their Christmas lighting is November 19th. They want to buy some bows, some pool noodles for Ayton to make some lollipops. And basically, on some of the bridge baskets, you'll see the bridge baskets are there because they want to put in some greenery in those for the Christmas season rather than removing the baskets and having to use garlands. So that's basically what it's for, is recommending that these things be purchased and using whatever budget that staff wishes to use for that.
Thank you. And I do see Mr. Hewlett's hand up. Go ahead, please.
Oh, sorry.
If I may, just the way the recommendation is listed, I believe there's a few things that the committee may have missed in their listing. So if council would possibly extend the latitude for staff to purchase or change the recommendation rather to purchase similar greenery or decorations to past years, I think that will give us the latitude to just do similar decorating to what we have done in the past. If we were to continue with this list, there would be quite a few items missing.
Any follow-up?
No, that's fine. Yeah, I agree that this was come from our last meeting, and that was fine. We probably missed some things. There's no monies attached to it, but that's something Cody maybe has a better handle on in terms of the amount that gets spent at this point. But yes, that's fine.
So I'm just going to go to Councilor Shea in one sec, but I just have a question. So we have a budget set in place, is basically what you're saying, Mr. Hewlett?
Yes.
I just wanted that for no clarity. Thank you. No? Councilor Shea, go ahead, please.
I was going to make a motion that we approve a budget to match last year's budget, but if the budget's already in place, then that's unnecessary. So we'll just receive this for information then. If you need a motion, I'm happy to do it.
I'm going to go to Madam CEO for that, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just for clarification, my understanding is we do have an existing budget for beautification initiatives. This list that the committee is asking for would be additional purchases, which we would like council approval for that. And I do believe there's still room in the budget just to give us direction to buy more than we used to buy, beef it up a little bit. So that would be a helpful motion.
Go ahead, Councilor Shea. And I do have just
through you, Mr. Chair.
Here.
So you're asking for an additional budget, but the amount is not indicated. So.
If I may, through you, these additional expenditures, we would be able to fit in the current budget. Last year, council approved approximately up to $7,000 for Christmas greenery decorating, and we have about that remaining.
Well, anything further, Councilor Shea? So I apologize. So for clarity, we're not going outside. We're not asking for anything more, Madam CEO. We're just, it's existing budget, just different items. Is that, Mike? That's how I'm taking that.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. I'm not going to say I'm a confused issue, but I'm confused in my own right. So, Mr. Hewlett, the budget that we have, last year we did not spend the entire budget. These items would fit within the existing budget. Then through you, Mr. Chair, motion is not required.
Thank you. That's where I was going. Appreciate that. Any other comments or questions from council members on this? Oh, okay. So we don't need a motion on that, but we do have still the other two recommendations. And I believe the way Councilor Hutchison put something forward, I just want to, we went on to another topic here. Go ahead, Madam CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I would think that we've sorted ourselves out on the committee's second recommendation. The first recommendation, as Councillor Hutchinson said, there have been meetings, staff to volunteers, and some of this work is underway. I think what the committee is just, they've done an awful lot of work, and they've made some great recommendations that will shape our work plan for next year. So at this point, staff's recommendation would be that we just receive the recommendations of this committee and we can proceed on that.
Councillor Hutchison, you good with that?
Yeah, I think you notice I'm just looking at the amended agenda here, so don't have the full agenda in front of me, but in the full agenda, there was a recommendation in terms of type of flowers that were to be purchased. This past year, there were a lot of flowers purchased, some extra ones purchased because of the homecoming. So next year, because we do have some expertise on the committee, they've actually made recommendations in terms of the type of flowers and how they might fit into the pots and so on. So we're using the expertise to help staff make the order for the flowers in the future. And so that's another thing that's in this, as you'll see in the other agenda, that hopefully council is supportive of this committee making recommendations in that manner, sort of thing. So that's the other part of that, I guess.
Thank you. So Clerk Eckeswater, we're just looking for a motion to receive then, correct?
Through the deputy mayor, 2 members. No, in this case, since there's no action being taken, everything will be captured at the end of 9.9. So unless there's any specific action requested, then we wouldn't need a motion at this point.
Thank you for the clarity. Everyone's good on that? Okay, any other discussion on 9.7 specific? Okay, seeing none, we are going to move on to 9.8, and that's West Grey Economic Action Committee. There's two recommendations in there. Anyone have any discussions or comments on that one? And Councillor Townsend, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. As far as budget, I'm assuming again that would be deferred until the 2023 discussion. I'd encourage staff to look at process improvement and customer service strategy to see if there's some way of doing that without adding yet another headcount. I know there was a lot of concern in the public about that when we were campaigning. So again, if the motion is required to defer that, I'd be prepared to make that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Councillor Hutchison, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether that recommendation is under 9.8, but is there a recommendation there that we're missed? Oh, okay. That's the second one. Okay. Yeah, they're hiring an extra.
But we are
person.
talking one and or both recommendations. There's under
Okay.
the one under 9.8. There's two
Okay,
recommendations.
I'll speak to the first recommendation if you like. Okay.
Go ahead,
So
Councillor
the first
Hutchison.
recommendation, we had a presentation from a local individual about using the old pump house across from Tim Hortons for somewhat of a museum. He has a very, very big historical background. He works with a number of museums in the area. And he thought that might be an opportunity to use that building for some sort of historical, or maybe it'll work also for a tourism type booth. It used to be a tourism booth years and years ago that they use that. It's a neat little spot. But I guess this recommendation is basically asking our building department to look at it to see if it's an appropriate use for museum proposal or for other uses, and that's sort of where this comes from. It was sort of it's a neat idea in terms of having a museum. There's always been talk about a museum in the area, and this individual is very he actually has his own magazine now, and he does many miniature displays for Bruce County Museum and a number of other museums, and he'd just like to do something locally. So he brought this presentation to our Economic Development Committee. And we had a very good discussion about it. It's sort of at the beginning stages. There would have to be grant money involved, and so we're a long ways away, but this is sort of a starting point in terms of let's look and see if there's a possibility of a spot that we could maybe begin, and that's what this is all about. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions on 9.8 specific? And I will go to Councillor Townsend and then I'll come to Councillor Shea. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As far as the museum goes, again, I see that as a potential direction from the next council, as well as any budget impacts. So I would recommend we defer both of them to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Shea, go ahead, please.
I was going to say I would like to see these both deferred as well. Well, there's nothing on the table, so on the floor, so I can't make a motion to defer. I think they should just be received for the time being.
Okay, Clerk Swiller, go ahead, please.
Through the deputy mayor to member, if there's no action being taken at this time, we can just move past it.
Thank you. Yeah, it'll be captured at the final recommendation. Councilor Hamilton, go ahead, please.
Thank you. And through you to Madam CAO, we have a report that has recommendations for our staff complement. Was an economic development officer one of those recommendations? Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Chair, not specifically Councilor Hamilton, there was a recommendation to reinstate the manager of community services position, which could blend into doing a little bit of both.
Thank you for that information. I agree to this. These have budget impacts that make sense for the next council to consider. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions, again, specific to 9.8? Again, there's no action required, so that'll be captured at the final recommendation. So we can move on. If there's no other comments or questions, we are going to move on to now. It's 9.9. That's Climate Action Advisory Committee. So we'd like to discuss or talk to this one. Anyone? Okay, no comments or questions for 9.8. Now I will go to Clerk Eckert-Swiller for the final recommendation to capture this whole all of the items under number 9.
Through the deputy mayor, that the minutes of committees and boards are hereby received.
Okay, thank you. Could I get a mover for that, please? Councilor Hergert, seconded by, I'll go take Councilor Shea. Comments or questions on the motion? All those in favor, raise your hand, please. I see all 5 members are in favor, none opposed. That motion is carried. I'm sorry, I had my mic up. I apologize. Do I need to repeat that? Okay, I'll have to capture my thoughts here again. I apologize for the mic off. I'm so used to turning it off because I have to mute, but where we are now is item number 10 is correspondence. 10.1 items requiring action. 10.1.1 the Friends of the Walkerton and Chesley Hospitals governance of the South Bruce Gray Health Center. We do have a recommendation, but I'm going to open up for discussion. Councillor Townsend, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. Having been on the board for almost 4 years of the hospitals, I can tell you that the composition of the board is in their bylaws, which is provincially approved. Therefore, it's not within the jurisdiction of municipality. Number one. Number two, the reason you see the spread that you do is based on who puts their hand up, who applies to be a board member. And at one time, you would have seen 0 under West Gray. I know when I applied in 2014, there were no representatives from West Gray because no one applied. So that distribution also can't be mandated, and it is based on who will put their hands up to be on the board. And also it's based on skill sets. If someone comes on and doesn't have the skill sets of what they're trying to look at for that particular term, then they won't be selected either. But the idea is to try to spread it as much as you can and get that representation. So my recommendation is that we just receive it and not take any action at this point. Thank you.
So got it moved by Councillor Townsend to you just want to receive their recommendation or their report. Can I get a seconder for that, please? Okay, that'll be seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Is there any other comments or questions on this item from council members? Councillor Herger, go ahead, please.
I do have a comment that this piece of correspondence came from the Walkerton and Chesley hospitals, and it really has to do with our own hospital as well. So I would look for some sort of discussion or, I mean, how are the things that are happening in Walkerton and Chesley not happening here? But the truth is, we know that our emergency room department is closing. So I think it is something that, other councils do it different. They have a physician recruitment. They do it different. We don't have that set up. I'm not looking to get West Gray into more involvement, but a hospital really is central to planning a community. So what is our hospital doing about what's going on in this letter?
just a general statement then, or Councillor Townsend? Do you have a comment? And then I'm going to call the vote.
Yeah, there is a recruitment a group initiative that's spearheaded by the foundation. And I think there is a role for the municipality in that, and that is to sell, if you will, market, and understand that there is other reasons for coming here other than just the fact that you'll be a doctor, nurse, whatever, if in fact they're coming from outside. I just saw it outside of the scope of this particular item, but you're absolutely right. There's a lot that needs to be done. And I hope the new council can look at that. Thank you.
Councillor Hutchinson, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd also like to make comment. Yeah, I have a little concern with this because this letter comes from the Friends of the Walker and Chesley Hospitals, and we're really talking South Grey Bruce Hospital Foundation, right? So the whole group. I have a concern when they suggest that they should get rid of the current board and get a new board. That's a bit of a tough thing to do. So, yeah, it's. I'd be in favor. We all have this concern with shortage of nurses and closing of our emergency rooms. And I'd be in favor of doing something in the future, but I think it needs to come from the group of municipalities together or a group of people that represent all of the area to try to come up with a solution. So yeah, I'd be willing to just accept it at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Clerk Eckenschwager, if you could read the recommendation, please. And I do have that moved by Councillor Townsend, seconded by Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, and through you, that council hereby receive the correspondence for information purposes.
Thank you. Comments or questions on the motion? All those in favor, raise your hand. See, all members are in favor, none opposed. That motion is carried. Okay, 10.2, items for information. So we'll just, I'm not going to read off everyone, but I'll give you the number is 10.2.1. That's Tan Valley Township resolution. Comments or questions on that one? Councillor Townsend, go ahead, please.
Thank you. A question to staff. I know that this came up once before regarding fees, and I'm not quite sure what the status of that was at the time. I wonder if you could comment on that, please.
Madam CEO, you want to go to Carrie?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Director Mighton.
Thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, a few years ago, the province had changed the administration fee that we receive from $30 to $50. It is still below what it costs for our livestock valuer to go out and adjudicate the issues, but that was the last time. That was a few years back that it was increased, but the current level is $50 per file.
Thank you, Director Mighton, for follow-up.
Yeah, just to follow up, I'm wondering, does staff have a number that they would like, or do they want to support this from a financial perspective, meaning that we're not recovering and therefore we should be proceeding with the province to get better funding?
Director Mighton.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Yes, if council wishes to pursue the province to try to get it to be more cost recovery, currently it's not.
Follow up.
Yeah, then I'd like to move that we support that in by also joining the call for the increase in funds to cover the actual costs that we're incurring.
Okay. Can I get a seconder on that? Councillor Hutchinson. And Clerk Eckenschwager, when you're there, you can read it back.
Through Mayor to members of council, I have moved by Councillor Townsend, seconded by Councillor Hutchinson, that council support a resolution by Tay Valley Township respecting a request to seek cost recovery for the Ontario Wildlife Damage Compensation Program administrative fee.
That capture it? Councillor Hutchinson? Comments or questions about that motion? Councillor Herbert, go ahead, please.
How much does the claim cost right now? We maybe don't have that data, right?
Dr. Mighton.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, the cost for our livestock valuer can range between $140 to $180 per claim.
And then I would just ask that as I show support to this motion, that we're going to circulate it to the people that have sent us one, as well as to our MPP and OMAFRA.
Mover, Councillor Townsend,
Yeah, that's fine.
seconder. Clerk Eckman, if I could get you just, is there any other comments or questions before I get the motion read again? Then we'll call the vote. Clerk Eckman, please.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, that council support a resolution by Tay Valley Township to seek cost recovery for the Ontario Wildlife Damage Compensation Program administrative fee, and that support be circulated to, pardon me, Councillor Hergert, was it just the other municipalities that have also supported it, or was it all Ontario municipalities in addition to MPs?
No, I would say just the four, I think it was 3 or 4 municipalities here that have circulated correspondence, as well as OMAFRA and our MPP.
Okay, so that it be circulated to Township of Alnwick, Alderman, Owassen, Tay Valley Township, OMAFRA, and the MP for Bruce Gray Owen Sound. And the MPP.
I'm still on 10.2.1 myself. I don't know how now we're discussing 10.2.2, I believe.
Through the Deputy Mayor, just one clarification. Councillor Hergert was requesting that we send our support to the other municipalities that also would like to see this change as well. So that's why they were looped into this.
Okay, maybe the Alnwick had jumped out at me on my agenda. Yeah, okay, thank you for the clarification. Councillor Hutchinson.
Just one question, that recommendation. Did we have AMO in there? AMO should be included in that. I believe it was in the original, and AMO will catch all municipalities if we include AMO.
Any other comments or questions? Does anybody need it reread, or are we all clear on the motion? And let me know when you're caught up there, Clerk Eckenswiller, and then we'll call the vote. Got up? Okay, so this is on specific to 10.1.1. I have it moved by Councillor Townsend and seconded by Councillor Hergert. Is that where you have to?
Your Mayor, it was moved by Councillor Townsend, seconded by Councillor Hutchinson.
My notes are going over, running out of room here. So call the vote. All those in favor, raise your hand, please. I see all 5 are in favor, none opposed, or 6, sorry. That motion is also carried. Now, 10.2.2, Township of Alnwick and Haldimand. Any discussion on that one? Seeing none, then we can go. We don't need to make a motion. We can catch that at the end with the final recommendation. 10.2.3, Municipality of Powassan. Any comments or questions on that one? Seeing none. 10.2.4, Municipality of Wawa. Councillor Townsend, go ahead, please.
Again, I would not support strong mayors. It's actually moving backwards and eliminating democracy. If you can get one person on council that can veto, and I'd like to see us in the strongest way possible, right to the premier, telling him that. And again, we'll do the same copy distribution that we just talked about. Thank you.
Councillor Hutchinson, your mic's on. I don't know if you have a comment. Any other comments or questions? There's no recommendation there, just a comment, or are you making a?
Yeah, as I said, I'd recommend that we do send in the strongest way possible a letter to Premier Ford, telling him our objection to that because of the fact that it does actually undermine democracy and actually could, in some extreme cases, if you get the wrong person at the helm, you could actually make council not even useful or required. And I don't think that's the intent of the municipal act. So.
Okay, so I'll take that as a motion. Is there a seconder for that motion? Councillor Hergert. And I will get clerk, Ed Controller to read that back, and we'll call for comments or questions on it.
Through the deputy mayor to members, I have moved by Councillor Townsend, seconded by Councillor Hergert, that council send a letter to the premier in support of a resolution passed by Wawa in opposition to strong mayors, and that the letter be circulated to West Perth, Wawa, and Mattawa.
Councillor Townsend.
I would also say MPP and Demo.
See the acknowledgement of that. Any other comments or questions on this one? Councillor Hutchinson?
Just a quick comment. Yeah, I too agree that I think it's we're heading in the wrong direction. It's giving too much power to one member, circumvents our planning process. So I don't like where that's going at all. But so I'm glad that we're going to respond. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, we'll call the vote. Oh, Councillor Hergert.
I just think it should also be circulated to Doug Ford, just so it's right on his desk.
Through mayor to the member, that was the first individual listed there, so we will ensure that he gets it.
Okay, so we are going to call the vote. And again, this is specific to 10.2.4. Is everybody clear on the recommendation? Okay, all those in favor, you can just raise your hand. I see all members are in favor. None opposed. That motion is carried. Okay, it takes us 10.2.5 municipality of West Perth. Any comments or questions on this one? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on now to 10.2.6 town of Mattawa. Any comments or questions on this one? Okay, seeing none, 10.2.7 Saugeen Valley Conservation. Comments or questions on this one? Councillor Townsend, go ahead, please.
The report actually says that our budget is levy is going up by 8.96%. Excuse me, and it's actually 10.91. There's two different changes occurring, and the 8.96 is only doing the last portion of it, not the full. If you take the current levy and the one from 2022, that's right, the proposed levy and the one from 2022, you'll see the difference is an increase of 10.91%. And I just think it's important that that's known. Again, it's only for receipt at this point, and the new council will deal with that kind of an increase in how they accept that, whether there's alternate services, et cetera. But so it's really just a comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Townsend. Yeah, and it is a draft budget that they put forward here. So I know that the next term can certainly formalize any other questions. And if you do have any, obviously they're always welcome. So Councillor Hutchinson, go ahead, please.
I'm curious of the numbers, because in the letter from the Saugeen Valley, it says that the levy, the 2022 levy, oh, sorry, that's 2022 levy was an increase of 1.93. Okay, I just don't see that number that Councillor Townsend come up with. The number increase must be further down in the report. Sorry. It was 1.93 in 2022. So 2023, you're saying it's going to be 9 or 10? Is that correct? Is that what you're saying?
Councillor Townsend?
Sorry, I'm actually saying that if you take, there's the very last, I think, sheet actually has the 2022, and then they go through the adjustment on the realignment, and then they end up doing the increase in their actual budget. And so between the realignment and the budget increase, it comes to 10.91 if you do the math. So, okay. I just wanted council to be aware that it is greater than the 8.96 and almost 11%. And again, when you start getting those kind of increases, you look at whether or not there's alternatives to actually paying that outside.
Okay, fine. I will leave that for budget deliberations. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, well, Councillor Townsend brought it to attention. Again, it is a draft budget. Any other comments or questions on this one here? And again, it's specific to 10.2.7 Councillor Shay, go ahead, please.
Thank you. This may be for our Director of Finance. There's a note in the agenda that this document is not accessible. Is that because spreadsheets generally are not accessible and there's nothing that can be done about that? Or is this just a shortcoming in this document in particular?
Director Mighton.
Thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor. Often spreadsheets are difficult to make accessible. It can be done, but we didn't. This is a PDF version that we received, but the tables, we didn't have the time to try to make it all accessible through our resources, and the Saugeen Valley didn't provide us with an accessible format when they circulated it.
Great, then I would like to make a motion that we request that Saugeen Valley forward future spreadsheets in accessible format.
Got that. Is there a seconder for that motion, please? Councillor Hergert, I'm just going to give the clerk a minute to catch up. So, Clerk Eckenswater, we have moved by Councillor Shay and seconded by Councillor Hergert. When you're ready.
That council requests that Saugeen Valley circulate future correspondence in an accessible format.
Does that capture it? Okay, thank you. Any comments or questions on that motion? All those in favor, if you just raise your hand, please. All members are in favor of that motion. That is carried. There's none opposed. Any other comments or questions on specific to 10.2.7? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on now to 10.2.8, Durham Agricultural Society. It's just a thank you letter. Any comments or questions on that one? Okay, thank you. 10.2.9, Terry Fox Foundation. Any comments or questions on that one? Okay, seeing none. Now we're going to go over to Clerk Eckenswater for the final recommendation.
Through Mayor, that council receives all correspondence not otherwise dealt with.
Can I get a mover for that, please? Moved by Councillor Hamilton. And can I get a seconder, please? That'd be moved, seconded by Councillor Shay. Comments or questions on this motion? Okay, call a question. All those in favor, you can raise your hand. I see all members are in favor, none opposed. That motion is also carried. Back at 10:50, sorry. Okay, I have 10:50. I'd like to call the meeting back to order, please. Mr. Hill, let us know when we're ready to go. Thank you. Okay, so it's 10:51. We're going to call the meeting back to order. We're on item number 11, staff reports. 11.1.1 is interim director of public works infrastructure. So we'll speak specifically to 11.1.1 Forest Creek. And I do see Director Glazier's here, so go ahead, please.
All right. It's been a while since I've been in here. So you have a report before you, council. The developer, Jaco Developments, has satisfied the terms of the development agreement and have recently completed placing the hardtop service within Forest Creek. They are looking at moving forward with finishing off the terms of the agreement. And that part of that, the terms of the agreement involves West Gray assuming the roads hereforth after today. Hopefully council will pass the bylaw, and it means that West Gray assumes the liability, maintenance, repair of such roads moving forth after 1 year of maintenance. So there is a maintenance period of 1 year for the developer to guarantee the product that they placed. So basically it allows West Gray to move forward completing the winter maintenance activities specifically within the community, and allows the buses to now legally enter upon Forest Creek Estates because of the insurance, the liability issues that the bus companies refused to go in upon unassumed road allowance. So it's just a formality, and I'm seeking council's approval for the bylaw to accept the roads.
Thank you, Director Glazier. So I'll turn this to council. Any comments or questions on this? Again, specific to 11.1.1. Councillor Herger, go ahead, please.
I do just have a question. Who will do the maintenance this winter? Is that our responsibility as we're assuming it, or that's part of that 1 year post construction?
To clarify, Councillor Herger, it will be West Gray staff and our equipment resources that will assume the maintenance henceforth. Yes.
And so that's typically budgeted for, that we would know this subdivision's coming online and we're gonna have to go out there 6-10 times extra this year? Or it's something we add in for next year?
It will be part of the operations, winter maintenance operations, which will be reflected in the budget process. Yes.
Okay. And last question, how does garbage go right now and in the future?
As my understanding, currently Waste Management has been entering upon the development for some time now. There was an agreement struck between the developer and Waste Management. So my understanding is Waste Management has been in there for several months now, completing that service.
Any comments or questions? For Kirkus, what if I get you to read it? I'll be looking for a mover and seconder, and we'll call the vote on it. Go ahead, please.
Through the Deputy Mayor to Council, that Council receives report Forest Creek Estates road assumption, and further that Council considers approval of bylaw 87-2022 during the bylaw portion of the meeting.
Thank you. Can I get a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Hutchinson, and I do see Councillor Hamilton. Comments or questions on the motion? All those in favor, you can raise your hand, please. I see all members in favor, none opposed. That motion is carried. That takes us to 11.1.2. And again, I believe this is Director Glazier's. Yes, it is. This is your presentation. Go ahead, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I present this report to council due to the resident that was spoke recently at the beginning of the council approached me back in September, wondering what the status of this request that apparently she had put forth some time ago. I believe in my report, I'm going back to prior to my arrival, but a delegation was received by council October 5th, 2021. And I believe at the time council motioned to receive the delegation, but yet I think move it to the council pass a resolution to defer it to the Traffic Safety Committee to review the request. I think at the time, as part of the Traffic Safety Committee, council was also considering an overall traffic study for the entire municipality. And I believe this was to be tied in with that traffic study. Having said that, of course, the traffic study has not been completed and wasn't budgeted for. I think it fell out of the budget process, if I can recall. I'm not 100% sure on that, but regardless, wasn't part of the budget process. And after my review, after receiving the residents' complaint, my initial review of the area, I'm well aware of the area that Ms. Hicks was speaking of. It's a built-up rural municipality. It's a built-up rural community in Haldimand Lake that has houses on either side of the road, and there are budding landowners. So the entrances are roughly about 100 feet apart, and there's several of them. It does conform to sort of the meets the warrants of a speed reduction zone in that community, and I feel in talking with Police Chief, West Grey Police Chief Rob Martin, discussing with him, and we both thought it was his recommendation that the road be posted to 50K an hour, and as to rightly protect the many residents in the area that use the road, not only for backing on and traverse, but also the community for walking, and at least raising awareness to the motoring public that they have to slow down through that area. So that's the reason for the bylaw coming forth to reduce the speed limit within that area.
Thank you for your detailed report and the history on it there, Director Blazer. Comments or questions from the council on that, Director, or sorry, Councilor Shea?
Yes, thank you, Director. In passing, you mentioned that the traffic safety study was not completed this year because it was not budgeted. Will you be requesting that it be budgeted in the upcoming year? Or let me phrase it differently. Could I encourage you to include it in the budget in the upcoming year?
If that is something that council wishes to pursue or add as a budget item for next year, I can include it under the operational part of the budget.
So you think having such a study would be advantageous to you as the head of this department?
I believe it would. It would outline areas of need, and what I mean by need is areas that are deficient, requiring additional signage to limit our liabilities within the community. And what I'm getting at is making sure that our vertical geometry and our horizontal geometry is adequately signed. If you understand what I'm saying.
And that might also result in the perhaps establishment of bypasses for trucks or traffic that doesn't need to go through our small downtowns?
That one, yeah, I would have to think about that, Councillor Shea. That one wasn't, but I guess that could be all part of the rationale of putting forth the traffic study. Yes.
Any comments or questions? Councillor Townsend, go ahead, please.
Yes, I'm going to raise this now rather than a question later, just because you're here and you may not have to stay as long. And since we're going down there on the traffic study, the traffic safety working group actually had requested discussions to happen with the province as well as the county regarding the roads that pass through Ayton, Neustadt, and Durham, and reduce that with a request to reduce that to 40 kilometers. Where does that stand?
Thank you. Sorry, if I may, I believe we stated all urban settlements, just to be for clarity, and that which should include Elmwood as well. Thank you. Go ahead, Director Glazier.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Councillor Townsend. So I did reach out to the province and I did reach out to the county. The county have a guideline that they will not lower the speed on an adjacent or on their corridors running through communities unless the entire community is posted the same. That is something it was an investigation that I started. Unfortunately, I stopped only because I needed to confer with other municipalities to understand what would be the logistics in placing signage throughout the community. So in other words, to enforce the law, to enforce the speed limit, there would have to be a horrendous amount of signage placed within the community. I was actually looking at whether or not there could be gateway signs to the community that would regulate, for example, coming into Durham, there would be signs at all major roads, Highway 6 and Gray Road 4 coming into the community. That large signs would be placed that would basically be a sign that would be black on white board, a large board that would state 40 kilometers through all roads through the community of Durham, rather than having to post hundreds of 40-kilometer-hour signs. So I'm trying to find out other communities to get the right type of signage that would be required, and also working with the police, Westgrade Police Services, to see if that is something that can be enforced within the community. If we put up the signs and they're non-enforceable because of the technicalities of that the signs have to be placed at every road, then it becomes redundant that we're going through that operation. So it's something that I apologize, it's been a slow process, but I'm still sort of feeling out the nature of how we're going to go about meeting those requirements to satisfy also Grey County. And the province has basically said that we can do what we want on the connecting link on Garipaxa Street. Sorry.
Okay,
So
and I wasn't aware, sorry. I was gonna say, I was aware that it was for the whole municipality, but the reason we had to go to the county and to the province is because we don't have jurisdiction on the speed of that, right? Just for clarity for anyone who didn't know that. The other thing that's, I guess, interesting is the Newstat business owners group have got together to do with revitalization. And one of their concerns is trucks through their area. We were meeting at the SEDC office, and every time a truck went by, you couldn't hear. Half the people were kind of tuned out because the volume was so high. It could be the quality of the windows. You know, we get that. But there's also a concern about if you deviate the truck traffic, you provide a way for cars to also go around. So I hope you'll take that into account at the same time. So.
Go ahead, Director Glazier. Sorry, through Mr. Chair. I might add that Grey County Transportation Services, and as part of the 2023 budget, are upgrading Mill Street in Newstead. They're going to be doing, I'm not 100% sure of the scope and the magnitude of the upgrades. I believe they're going to urbanize the curves south of the Newstead Brewery and try and provide some traffic calming initiatives with the reconstruction of that section of road. Westgray's only involvement, if you want to call it that, would be extension of sidewalk work if we wish to do that, and upgrading things of that nature. But typically it's going to be mostly Grey County's work involved within that project. So we're sort of going to be joining them in upgrading that section of Jacob and Mill Street. Sorry. Yeah. Hey, one more follow-up. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. Just so you know, the county did provide their latest traffic study and volumes to that group. right, through myself. So they do have that as well, just so you're aware if they come back as part of the revitalization or come to you for questions. So thanks.
Thank you. And Director Glazer, just for my own clarity, because I did sit on that traffic one. Did you say community, or are we speaking specifically to like Durham, the town limits, or are they talking the entire community as in all of West Gray? I'm clear on that.
No, it would be gateway for the communities of Ayton and Newstead. It would be the major arteries, county roads coming in and out of both Newstead and Ayton, and the county road and the Kings Highway coming out of Durham. So
thank you. Because I heard community and I think, well, we got to do it all. And yeah, thank you. Did you have another comment? Or okay. And the comments or questions on 11.1.2 speed reduction specifically, Councillor Hutchinson, and I do see Councillor.
Yeah, just a comment and a question. Yeah, I think it's great that we're trying to reduce the speed. There's lots of speeders out there. I think ideally it really comes down to enforcement. I mean, we could put 10-kilometer-an-hour speed limits out there, but if we don't enforce it, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to break that speed limit anyways. So that becomes more of a policing thing. So my question is, with this Havermill area, we're going to put new signs up to reduce the speed to 50. Are we going to use our mobile signs to sort of make people aware that this is a change, maybe coming and going out of there? And I also realize that some areas, what they do, they'll put bollards in the middle of the road to slow down traffic, which you see quite a few places now. But anyways, I'm just concerned about, I know you sometimes put up new signs to say this is it, but can we use our speed signs for that area, our flashing speed signs for that new area?
Dr. Glazer?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. The answer is yes, that could be used. The bollards, our roads aren't quite wide enough, Councillor Hutchinson, to support putting the bollards. I know the town of Hanover has them. That's the only one I can think of right now, but it would be, you are correct. There would be the speed signs, and there would be a new, it would say new on it. It's a yellow and red blaze sign that kind of goes underneath or above the speed limit sign, so the people their attention is drawn to that part. Those would stay up for roughly about 4 to 6 months, because people will have to be trained to slow down or recognize that. So those parts will be going up.
Follow up. Councillor Herger, go ahead, please.
So I'm curious, do we have a recommendation from the Traffic Safety Working Committee? Does anybody have a recommendation on this? Has it gone to that committee?
We'll go to Madam CEO for response to that, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I don't believe we do. The director has taken the initiative though, and his recommendation is coming to you from staff.
Which staff, sorry?
It's coming from our director.
Right, Director Glazer consulted with which staff?
He is the staff that's bringing the recommendation. He
Right.
consulted with
No, I get
the
that.
citizens. Yeah,
He consulted with the citizens.
correct.
Did he consult with this Traffic Safety Working Group?
I don't believe the traffic safety working group was meeting at the time that this work was
Yeah.
happening. There was some challenges getting meeting dates and quorum, and then there was COVID.
Hmm. It just, as Councillor Hutchison mentioned, it really leads back to enforcement, and I'd hate to be in the wrong lane. So we should make sure when we decide as council whether or not we're going to change that, what the impact is to our community. Maybe at Havermill it makes sense, but there may be other places that are not studied by our Traffic Safety Working Group that just literally don't have that recommendation and input. So really, what's the purpose of the Traffic Safety Working Group if we're not meeting, if we're not giving, if they're not giving recommendations to the group?
Okay, I'll go to Madam CEO in a sec, but I could just say that we did, that committee or that task force actually lost quorum. So I will go to Madam CEO, and that's why you haven't seen any minutes or anything come through in the last year and a bit. Madam CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I would just like to remind council that like all of our advisory committees, they make a recommendation staff either support that recommendation or not, and it's up to council to act on the recommendation from staff. So in this case, Mr. Glazer would have been supportive if that committee had met. So we're landing in the same spot, which is a good news item for this particular neighborhood.
I am glad that we're able to reach the constituents' concerns, because really that seems what it was. It was brought forward by residents, and now it is still residents to staff. So we've eliminated that process of the committee.
Okay, any other comments or questions specific to 11.1.2? Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a note that as you see in the bylaw, there are many other places that we do have a 50-kilometer-an-hour speed limit. And this is just adding one, part P, actually. And then we have some areas that are 60. But I believe, talking to Mr. Glazer, and I don't know if he mentioned it, that he did refer to the police chief and look at that area. So he did have some extra staff involvement in terms of getting feedback in terms of that situation. So just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Director Glazer for final comments, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for clarification too, I want council to understand that for every action I do as far as in implementing road signage, it affects the West Grey Police Services. I always reach out to the police services with respect to enforcement, road enforcement, whether it be parking, speed, or anything like that, because it puts I need his involvement to say, yeah, Brand, or yes, we agree with what you're trying to do, and whether or not the enforcement becomes problematic. And I don't like to do anything without having his positive feedback with regards to anything. So again, it's always a communication mechanism. I think it's very important that I'm not surprising the police services with a bylaw without reaching out to them first and getting their endorsement before I proceed to council.
Okay, final comments, because I do want to move
I
on.
would just like
please.
to know, when will we know that this works? When will we know that 50K per hour works? Will we have some metrics back from the police? Will we know something back?
Director Glazer, please.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think the metrics are going to be involved with the community. I think the public residents are going to be the first ones to know if in fact the signage is working. And I would probably anticipate that a majority of the traffic, once they see the speed reduction, 90% of them are going to slow down or look after the speed. It's the other 10% that are going to be the issue, and that's where the enforcement of obviously is going to come into play. So,
thank you. Did you have a final comment, Councillor Townsend? Then I'm going to go to the call the vote.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that the Traffic Safety Working Group would have also consulted yourself and the police chief, because both of you were on that committee. So the process really hasn't changed in the sense of getting that input. So that's worked out really well. If it had come to the committee, those people would have been consulted anyway. So thanks.
Okay. Thank you. And I do want to say I appreciate your initiative on taking this, and you are dealing with the community when they came forward. The committee was not active, the task force, and I do appreciate what you've done and taking the initiative on that. And I'm going to go to Clerk Eckenswiller to read the recommendation. I'll be looking for a mover or seconder, and then we'll be calling the vote. Clerk, please.
Through the deputy mayor to members of council, that council receive report speed reduction on Side Road 5 NDR at Habermill Lake, and further that council considers approval of a bylaw 88-2022 during the bylaw portion of this meeting.
Okay, and Councillor Townsend, you're moving that, and seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Comments or questions? We have had a wholesome conversation on it. Seeing none, all those in favor, you can raise your hand, please. I see 5 members in favor, opposed, 1 opposed. That motion has carried. It'll take us to 11.2, Chief Administration Office, 11.2.1, Durham Girls Marching Band Delegation, and I will, yes. Oh, okay, yes. Acknowledging Councillor Shea declaration, you will follow that with the clerk. Okay, thank you.
Through mayor to Councillor Shea, if you could just state the nature of your conflict prior to leaving.
You got to come back to your mic, Councillor Shea, please.
The recommendation is to dispose of the Durham Girls Marching Band equipment at a discount to members of the band and to possibly to community groups. I am a member of a community group which could benefit from having that discounted disposal policy.
Okay. All right, thank you. So 11.2.1, we know Councilor Shea has declared a conflict. And over to you, Madam CL, for this report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I will request that Mr. Hewlett speak to this. He had a very productive meeting with this organization.
Then Mr. Hewlett, go ahead, please.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair. Fairly straightforward report in front of council. Basically, I had met with members of the Durham Girls Marching Band to discuss the sale and disposition of the equipment that is left over from previous going-ons of the Durham Girls Marching Band.
Thank you. Comments or questions from council? Councilor Herder, go ahead, please.
Councilor Herder, your mic isn't on, sorry.
Thank you. The first part of this says that council approved the posting and sale of band instruments and related materials at whatever percentage of the original purchase price. That I see as one item. The other part of this is with the funds being held for the restoration and display of band trophies and awards. Just curious what you can lend there. I'm not sure if we do that at all right now.
If I could ask for clarification on your question, I'm a little bit confused on what you're asking.
Sure. So the second part of this recommendation, the first part is the percentage, if there should be a percent of the original purchase price for selling them. And then what to do with the funds after the funds are garnered. So with the funds being held for the restoration and display of band trophies and awards, where do we currently do that in West Gray right now?
The trophies and awards are not on display currently.
So this would be something new. And is there a location? I believe Durham Arena was talked about, but where in Durham Arena would we be speaking of?
The proposed location, dependent on space, in meeting with band members, they would like, if we are able to put them on display in the warming room where the current Durham Girls mural stands.
I guess, have we checked with any of the other user groups for that area? Like there would be plenty of room there?
I would have to double check on the sizing. However, I don't anticipate that it will be a problem.
Okay.
If they are not able to go in the warming room, they will be put on display somewhere in the arena where that stands. We don't have that set in stone yet.
Anything further? Any comments or questions from Councilor Hutchison? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so my first question is the percentage. We had, when they had their presentation, the band, they priced out the equipment at another music store and they gave them a percentage. Was that 50%? I can't remember the percentage. Was it 50% that they were suggesting?
If I may, the percentage that Long and McQuaid would pay for the used equipment, it's just over 50%. So for example, the trumpets, sorry, the percentage that Long and McQuaid is over 50 would pay is over 50% of the original purchase price of the equipment.
Okay, so we need to come up with a percentage, or whatever that may be. The other thing that I question a little bit on that is, first of all, I'd like to know what, so given the number of instruments, and I presume we have an inventory, what that amount might look like if we take 50% of the purchase price originally. I'm just wondering about how much money that's going to entail and whether we can pigeonhole all of that money towards restoration, display of band trophies and awards. I like to see us maybe open that up a little bit and make that restoration and display of band trophies and awards and other trophy presentations, because in the arena we have hockey, we have figure skating, we have soccer, we have a lot of other groups present trophies and pictures and so on. So I just like to open that up a little bit because I don't know how much money we're talking. And if we say it's just for the Durham Girls Band's trophies and awards, what happens if we have $10,000 left over? And where does that go? So I'd just like to open it up a little bit, so because there will be needs for other groups to restore trophy cases and so on.
If I may, I don't anticipate that we will have a full sale of all of the equipment at our first go of this. So that's why we will be reporting back to council following the original sale.
Any follow-up? Councillor Hamilton, go ahead.
I appreciate staff's time meeting with the Durham Girls Band and for the information that you provided. I think this is a really nice pathway forward, and it honors the intention of the original funds and honors the volunteerism of our girls band. So thank you for bringing this forward. I'd be prepared to move the motion and would propose 50% as part of that recommendation. Thank you.
50%. Okay, thank you. So I have that moved at the recommendation by Councillor Hamilton at 50%. Is there a seconder for that number? Okay, Councillor Townsend. Now I'll go over to Clerk Sherbeck or Ackenswater. I apologize. That's a habit.
I have a point of order.
Yes.
I would like to divide the question so that we have the 50% of the original purchase price. And then period. And then what we do with it being the second part of that. That's what I would.
So you want to split it and do two motions then? Okay. So why don't we go to Clerk Ackenswater, get that, and then I'll come back to the mover and the seconder.
So we have that council received report Durham Girls Marching Band follow-up for information, and that council approve the posting and sale of band instruments and related materials at 50% of the original purchase price.
Okay, so the first motion is to receive, and then the second one will be, does it look like they're going together? It sounded like to me. So what clarity do you want?
Exactly where.
Yeah, okay, I thought it went into one. Okay, so we have two motions. So Councillor Hamilton and Councillor Townsend moved the original. Are you good with moving the first motion?
Yes, that's acceptable. Thanks.
Councillor Townsend?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we'll call the vote on that. Any comments or questions on that one? On the percent? Okay. All clear on that? Okay, all those in favor, you can raise your hand. I see all members in favor, none opposed. That motion is carried. Now the second motion. Do you want to carry on with that one? And then Councillor Townsend, are you good with that? Second? Okay.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so I'll have the clerk read it, but I'll move the next part as well related to the restoration and display.
So we have Councillor Hamilton's going to move the second portion, seconded by Councillor Townsend, and Clerk Ackenswater, if you could read that one, please.
That the funds from the sale of the band instrument be held for the restoration and display of the band trophies and awards.
Good with that? Good with that? Okay. Comments or questions? Okay. All those in favor, you can raise your hand, please. I have 4 members in favor. Any opposed? 1 opposed. That motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, number 12 on today's agenda is questions in accordance with the West Gray procedural bylaw. Members may request clarification or updates on previous agenda items. So this is number 12, and I do see Councillor Herger. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Similar to the last item, 11.2.1, if we have something surplus, I believe that we should declare that surplus. And this being our last meeting of this council, I know that in 2018, the council was able to declare the council technology surplus to the needs of West Gray, and then the disposal of the property to the council representative. So I would move a motion to that nature.
Okay, so I guess we got to get a seconder for that motion. Or do you want to, for clarity, Clerk Ackenswater, there's a motion that was called by Councillor Herger. I should probably get a seconder, and then I'll go to Madam CEO for a comment, or could you? Give me the proper process here, please.
Through the deputy mayor, this is something that would be most appropriate dealt with at new business rather than at questions.
Okay, we can wait for that. That's fine.
Okay, so just for clarity, when we do get there, then I will be looking for a seconder on that one to put it on the floor. Thank you. Okay, so we're on number 12, questions. Okay, seeing none. Now we're going to move on to number 13 again. Councillor, that's at number 14. I'll come back to you, okay? Okay, number 13, bylaws, 13.1. Bylaw 46-2022, establish a conference, seminar, and professional development policy. What would council like to do with this one? Councillor Hutchinson, go ahead, please.
Well, first of all, I just have a little concern with this, the way this is set up. I know we made some changes over the term in terms of amount monies allotted. We made that we could have $1,500 annually to put towards expenses for conferences, workshops, learning opportunities. But given that in previous councils, we were allowed to go to 2 conferences, $1,500 does not cover 2 conferences. Given that most conferences, if you go to AMO or to Roma, you're looking at $650 to $750 just for the conference itself. Then you're looking at a couple $100 a night for rooms plus travel. I know the per diem is not part of that. So I would suggest that given $1,500, you might get 1 conference and have a little bit left over for something else. But I would suggest that that amount is not enough if we're going to allow people to go to 2 conferences. And I think for new members coming in, it's important to get to a couple conferences just to get up to speed. So I would like to see us either change that or defer this until we have budget talks at a later date. So one or the other. Maybe someone wants to speak to that. I don't know.
So is it more of a statement or are you putting a motion forward?
Well,
I want to make sure I'm clear.
I'm willing to hear other people's point of view, but I would definitely put a motion forward that we move, if we're going to discuss it and make changes now, I would say make it 2,000. Or we leave it till we defer it till budget time. So I'm open for ideas.
Okay, so I will come back to you. I'm going to go to Councillor Hamilton next. Go ahead, please. There's not a motion on the floor, by the way.
Okay, well, thank you. I think Councillor Hutchison raises a valid point. I do recall we discussed this at length during one of our budget years and we landed on 1,500. I think that was in the throes of COVID when everything was online. I think $1,500 would cover 1 in-person conference and then quite a few online conferences. I'm okay passing it like this. And then if the next council wishes to revisit and add to it during budget time, they could. So that's just my comment on as to what you raised. I too think education is so important and wouldn't want to discourage anyone from attending conferences. I'll just raise a different point. Number 2J speaks of council members who attend conferences are required to submit a written and or verbal summary of proceedings. And there was a time when we had committee of the whole that we would do that, right? But since we don't have committee of the whole, we haven't had that same opportunity. And so I don't know if this is something we want to keep. And if so, where procedurally would that go? Or if we should strike that altogether. But I'm just not sure from a procedure perspective where this kind of update would fit in. And so perhaps I might just check in with staff about how they see a counselor providing an update on professional development. Where would that fit into a council meeting? Thank you.
Madam CEO.
Through Mr. Chair, yes, Councillor Hamilton, Committee of the Whole was a little bit looser and there was opportunities to do this. Our current agenda does have an announcement section which council could utilize to provide updates on things they've attended.
Okay, that's fair. And I think that's about 5 minutes per member, right? Okay, then I have no further concerns. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Yeah, I'm going to Councillor Townsend and then to Councillor Herger.
Yeah, I guess unless the Director of Finance is willing to give us a number, I would suggest that we just defer it and do it as part of the budget process. That's where it came out of the discussion last time. So it makes sense to do that as well. And rather than us try to impose something, I don't think people are rushing off to do anything for next year yet. But again, I think from a staff point of view, Madam CAO deals with that, herself. Council, I don't think you're gonna be doing anything until after you meet. So I would leave it to 2023 budgeting.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Herger.
I'll move a motion to defer.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a seconder, please? Councilor Hutchinson. Clerk Eckenswerder, if you could read the recommendation. Oops. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Director Mighton. You got to speak up. I wasn't looking at the screen.
Sorry, through you, Deputy Mayor. So the reason this is being brought forward, I received 2 readings back in May when we made the change to go to the $1,500. So by passing it today would recognize the 2022 conferences that you've done at the $1,500. Otherwise, we're still operating in limbo under the old one, but we've been acting under this one for 2022. So that's why it's being brought forward for your consideration. It can still be further amended next year with the new council as far as the dollar amount. But the reason it is being brought forward was for the 3rd reading for the 2022 year, which you've all attended different conferences at.
Thank you, Director Mighton. Clerk Eckenswerder, if we defer, that just keeps this as is. Status
Point of
quo.
order. Motion to defer is not debatable. So let's get right to the vote, please.
Fine, the vote, you're right, actually. Well, I guess we'll call the vote on that then. But I still want the recommendation read.
That bylaw 46-2022 to establish a conference, seminar, and professional development policy be deferred to 2023 budget deliberations.
Thank you. I'll call the vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. 2 in favor, opposed. I have 4 opposed. That motion is defeated. Now we're back to the main recommendation. Go ahead, please. Another motion. Well, actually, yes. Clerk Eckenswerder, we did have the original motion or recommendation. We had a mover and seconder on that. And now that that motion was defeated, that one would still stand, correct?
Through the chair to members of council, that is correct. So the original motion was moved by Councilor Hergert, seconded by Councilor Hutchinson. So
Okay, so that's the original recommendations here. So it's before us. And I thought it was Councilor Townsend, but that's fine.
I'll withdraw.
Okay, so I am looking for a mover now on the recommendation. Now we'll go to Councilor Townsend as the mover, correct? And a seconder with Councilor Hamilton. Comments or questions? Okay, now we'll call the vote on this recommendation. Everybody clear on what we're voting on? Okay, now Councilor Hutchinson.
Recommendations in the under bylaws 13.1, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so call the vote. All those in favor now, raise your hand. I see 5 members in favor, opposed, 1 opposed. That motion carries. Thank you. Now we're going to go to 13.2. Start fresh here. Okay, so this is bylaw 87-2022, assume road Forest Creek Estate subdivision. And I'll be looking for a mover and a seconder on that one, please. Any comments, questions? Councilor Herger, removing that? Okay, seconder. Councilor Shane. I'll get the clerk to read the recommendation, please.
through Deputy Mayor to members that bylaw 87-2022 being a bylaw to assume certain sections of land into the municipality of West Gray Road system be read a first, second, and third and final time.
Comments or questions? Thank you. Call the vote. All those in favor? See all members are in favor, none opposed, that motion has carried. 13.3 bylaw, number 88-2022, setting the rate of speed motor vehicles from a statutory speed limit. Actually, I'm going to get the clerk to read the recommendation. I'll be looking to remove her in a second here, please. Go ahead, please.
Through the Deputy Mayor, just before I read the recommendation, just a point of clarity on that one. So staff issued an addendum agenda on October 31st to correct an error found within bylaw 88-2022. The bylaw was originally intended to amend bylaw 71-2013 until staff were made aware that 71-2013 was not the most current version of the setting rate of speed in motor vehicles from a statutory speed limit bylaw, which goes to show that records management is very important. Bylaw 88-2022 will repeal and replace all previous versions of setting rate of speed in motor vehicles from a statutory speed limit bylaw and will include speed reduction on Side Road 5 from concession 6 NDR to a point 600 meters north of Side Road 5 in Bentic. So with that, the motion is that bylaw 88-2022, being a bylaw for setting the rate of speed of motor vehicles from a statutory speed limit, be read a first, second, and third and final time.
Thank you, Clerk Eckenswiller. Can I get a mover for that, please? Okay, I do see Councillor Townsend, and I will acknowledge Councillor Shea. Comments or question on this one? Councillor Townsend, go ahead, please.
Thank you. I was one that identified there were some gaps here, but there's also still a gap here. The road I actually live on was concession 2 WGR in Normanby. And it was also changed to a 60 kilometer speed sometime in 13 or 14. And the section that is done is from the corner of concession 2 WGR and Normanby Bentic town line west to concession 2 WGR and south to the WGR Varney Road intersection. And that is missing from here as well. So I would propose an amendment to the motion that says as amended, so that it does include that. I don't know if there's any others that are missing, but I do know that one is not here.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Director Glazier. Go ahead, please. And your mic's on, Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Councillor Townsend, just so you're aware, warning signs, black on yellow, are not regulatory and therefore don't require a bylaw. And I believe in that particular case, those are warning signs, black on yellow. I believe regulatory signs are the black on white, require a bylaw to be enforced. The warning signs are not regulatory and aren't enforceable, save and except if there was a situation that there was a motor vehicle accident that was attributed to the speed, and then it's up to the discretion of the law enforcement agency to impose fines as they see fit. But this particular section, I believe, and I had our supervisor, rural supervisor, confirm the signs because of the question that you're going to ask, and that is, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe those are black on yellow signs and don't require bylaw.
I know the one at Varney and concession 2 WGR is yellow, so I'm going to assume the other one is as well. So, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
So we don't need that change then.
Just so you're aware, even though there are posted speed signs that are black on yellow, those are not regulatory and don't have a bylaw for them. Okay.
Thank you for that clarification. Yep, that's great.
Okay, thank you. So you did put a.
Yeah, so there's no amendment required.
No amendment required. I just want clarification on that. Any other comments, questions down here? Going this way, Councillor Hutchison, go ahead, please.
I just have a question when the director mentioned about the yellow black signs. Is that something that an individual citizen can put up in front of their place, or does that have to be put up by West Grey staff? Because I see a few of them out there. I'm just wondering, curious.
No, those signs are also, there are special signs that have to meet reflectivity and size. So public are not allowed to place those signs. It's only public works that are required to or allowed to do so.
Okay, thank you. Are we all clear on the recommendation for this one with no amendment? We don't need to reread? Okay, so we'll call the vote. All those in favor, you can raise your hand, please. I see all members are in favor, none opposed. That motion is also carried. It's 13.4, and I do want to acknowledge that Councillor Shea will be leaving by 12 noon. He has another commitment, so if you do see him leave, he's not running out on us. So, but we'll carry on if you do go. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. That takes us 13.4. That's bylaw 89-2022 authorization winter maintenance agreement, IMOS. Any comments or questions on this one? Okay, well, I got, I'll have the comments, or actually, you know what? Could I get you to read the recommendation? I'll get a mover second and we'll go over comments, questions. How's that?
That bylaw 89-2022 being a bylaw to authorize entering into winter maintenance service agreement with Integrated Maintenance and Operations Services Incorporated, operating under the name of Owen Sound Highway Maintenance Limited, be read a first, second, and third and final time.
Thank you. Now I'll be looking for a mover. Okay, Councillor Townsend. And Councillor Hurd, did you have your hand up for a second or down there? Now I'll be looking for comments, questions on this one. Councillor Townsend, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I just wonder if staff could tell us what the cost was last year. Thank you.
Director Glazier.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Councillor Townsend, last year, West Gray paid 19,500 plus HST. So it's, if you're wanting to know, it's roughly about a 9.1% increase over last year.
Okay, anything further? Comments, questions this way? Okay, seeing none, we're all clear on the recommendation. Then we'll call the vote. All those in favor, you can raise your hand, please. All members are in favor. There's none opposed. That motion has carried. Okay, that takes us to 13.5, bylaw number 90-2022, confirming the proceedings of council. So can I get the recommendation read, please, Clerk Ecclesworth?
Through Deputy Mayor, that bylaw 90-2022 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council be read a first, second, and third and final time.
Okay, could I get a mover for that motion, please? Councillor Hamilton. Seconded by Councillor Shea. Comments or questions on this one? Seeing none, call the vote. All those raise their hand to support. All members are in favor, none opposed. That motion has carried. Item number 14 is new business, and I will go to Councillor Hergert had something.
Thank you. So as this is new business, I would like council to consider the technology that we have is 4 years old. We're going to likely the new council will want new technology as well. And in 2018, the council had brought forward a motion deeming our technology as surplus. And I would like to bring forward the same motion today that we would declare our technology surplus to the needs of the municipality and that the disposal will go to the council representatives.
Did you get all that, Clerk Ecclesworth?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, yes, I did. And just a point of clarity too, so this would require a 2/3 vote as it's a new item that no previous notice has been provided for.
Okay, but we will need a seconder to get it on the floor, or we just go right to the vote then?
So it does have to be seconded, and then we would need a 2/3 vote after that.
So I'll be looking for a seconder to support that. Councillor Townsend's going to second that. We all clear on the motion, and we can call the vote now. Obviously, is what we're, Councillor Shea, go ahead.
I just wondered, does staff have any plans for redeploying that equipment? Could we get a summary?
That's what I was looking for, clarity from the clerk. Do we call the vote or can we have comments?
I believe Madam CAO has a comment that she'd like to add.
That's more than welcome, Madam CAO.
Thank you. Just for process, if I may, Mr. Chair, we need the vote on the 2/3 to bring this forward, and then we can discuss it if that passes.
Thank you for the clarity. That's what I was trying to get to. So we do need to call the vote on that for this one here. We all clear on what we're voting on? And we'll need 2/3 to support to carry on. So all those in favor, if you could raise your hand, please. I see 5 in favor, opposed, 1 opposed. That motion is carried. So that's 2/3 carried. Now we'll go to Madam CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Councillor Shea, for the question. We do have some plans to redeploy the equipment. I don't believe that it's exactly 4 years old because partway through the term, we had replaced some councillors switched from iPads to laptops. And our treasurer has got, so if we can go to Carrie, she's got some further information in relation to a part of it's for customer service and part of it is for just internal usage.
Through you, Deputy
Yeah,
Mayor.
sorry. I was
Sorry.
looking after you.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. Sorry. Yeah, we were planning to refurbish them and reallocate them either through the new council term, and some of the iPads we were going to repurpose for use at the front counter as we move to some online options with credit card processing that we could have available at the counter. And also through the recreation department, and with some of the continued online training and resources, we can also repurpose them for staff laptops as a training tool as well.
Thank you, Director Mine. Councillor Shea, go ahead, please.
Did we not have discussion about changing this equipment provision policy, and instead of giving councillors technology, that we would give them an allowance and they could acquire whatever technology they wanted? I seem to recall some discussion about that.
Director Mine, do you have that or?
We do, council does currently get a $75 a month technology allowance. I don't know, I don't recall whether we were going to increase that to allow for other technology in replacement of us providing the resource, but that is currently the council members each receive $75 per month for technology.
Yeah, if I may, I believe that was just for cell phone, printing, internet, anything and everything under that one. That's how I recall that, but I could be wrong. Okay, any other comments or questions? And I just want to go to Clerk Eckenspotter. So we have a 2/3 vote, and that would be this motion that was introduced. And we need to, like the main recommendation, I'm trying to get back to that. I just need to know how to get there, please.
Certainly. So through the Deputy Mayor, so the previous motion was to allow for this motion to be introduced. Now we would have Councillor Hergert introduce the actual motion itself and then vote it up or down.
Thank you. I just want a clarification on that. So now I'll be looking for, well, I'll go to you, Councillor Herb, if you want to introduce a motion.
I would make a motion that council declare the council technology surplus to the needs of West Gray, and that disposal be to the council representatives.
And we'll be looking for a seconder for that one. Councillor Townsend, you're seconding that? Okay. We all clear on the motion? You need it read? Councillor Hutchison?
Just a question. I'm just curious. I'm not sure why we did sell them off last term in terms of the council, or not, sorry, sell them off. We allowed the council of the previous term to keep their equipment outgoing. So I'm not sure why we did that, because I see a purpose for the municipality to be able to repurpose. They would obviously have, someone would have to be upgraded and so on. So I think there's a need there, but I'm just curious. I'm not sure why we did that last time when we could have done the same thing. So we're sort of at this situation. Do we continue what we've done in the past, or we do make changes? And that's where we're at.
Thank you. Does anybody need the motion read back? Because I am going to go to the clerk and then I want to call the vote. Do you have a question? Looks like you're prompted.
I was just going to ask a question. I mean, after 4 years, this computer is 4 years old. What IT person do we have that's recommending that we keep this technology to be able to move forward? I'm just curious, do we have any IT people that would recommend that?
I believe our treasurer,
No.
Director might be able to help us.
Sure, through you, Deputy Mayor. We have a contract with our network computer providers. They will be refurbished. If there is any memory or anything, they will be erased and put back into service. They are still continuing to work, as you are all continuing to use them today. So we hope to be able to continue to use them in the future. We will see how long we get to use them, but we do still see that they are valuable and working resources.
Okay, thank you, Director Mighton. Clerk Akaswar, could I get you just to read that motion so we're all clear, and then we will call the vote on that one.
Certainly, and Councillor Hergert, please feel free to interject if I've gotten your words mixed up here. So that council declared council technology to the needs of West Grey, and that this technology be declared surplus and released to council.
Okay, we all clear? You good with that? And you are the seconder? You good with that? Okay, call the vote. All those in favor, if you raise your hand, and that's in support of selling the surplus. Okay, I see one in favor. Those opposed? I see 5 members opposed. The motion is defeated. Now back to the main recommendation. That's it. We're defeated. Okay, good. All right, thank you. I just want clarity on that. All right, any other new business? We are still on item number 14. Seeing no other new business, under 15, announcements. Is there any announcements? So it's in accordance with the West Grey procedural bylaw. Comments are, excuse me, not debatable, nor shall they introduce new business. Comments shall be limited to 5 minutes per member. And we have Councillor Hamilton. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Well, as this is our last scheduled regular council meeting, I'd like to take this time just to say a few words. I want to say thank you to my fellow council members, to Doug and Tom and Rebecca and Stephen and Jeffrey and Christine, who's not with us today. A heartfelt thank you. I really appreciated all the different life experiences we bring and perspectives, and that we've all had the courage to share what's from our heart and bring that forward to council so we can have really thoughtful discussions, deep discussions. I'm really proud of this council for having the courage to wrestle with difficult discussions and to bring brave ideas forward. And I have been taking some time just to reflect on some of our successes, because it is a bit of a blur, especially with COVID right in the middle of this term. So some highlights for me would be launching West Grey into social media. That was, yay, we did that in this term. Yeah, that was pretty remarkable. You know, it's now easier than ever to watch a council meeting thanks to COVID. We've got Zoom, we've got YouTube. That's a real success. You can be like me in the kitchen watching dishes and watching a council meeting now. You don't have to come to chambers. And that's something a legacy that will continue. We've completed service reviews for municipal staff. The library has done a service review as well, and we're continuing to do analysis of police services right now. We've added film, plastics recycling and styrofoam recycling programs. We flew the pride flag for the first time, and we're taking action on climate change for the first time with a climate action plan that's well under development and will be coming to council soon. So we achieved all this and more in the midst of a global pandemic. I did not see that one coming when I first ran for council. It's been like learning from what's the expression? Drinking from a fire hose, especially those first couple of years of learning. I'm so grateful to West Grey staff for keeping our community safe through the pandemic and keeping our services going. And I'm grateful for staff's steadfast commitment to West Grey through thick and thin. Thank you to CEO Laura for your leadership and your grace. It's been an honor to work with you. You always find the right words at the right time, the grace. And thank you to all the community volunteers with whom I've served on committees and boards. West Grey Public Library, Saugeen Mobility, Elmwood Community Center, Climate Action, and our Dark Skies committees. Thank you. I have learned tremendously from our community, who are so eager to give of their time and expertise. And I wish to thank my family for your ongoing support. Our families didn't choose to run for public office, but they're greatly impacted by our public life. And so thank you to my partner, Mark. for your support and at times sacrifice. I couldn't have made it through the term without you. Serving as a West Grey councillor has been an incredible privilege and at times a heavy responsibility. I'm forever changed by this experience. It's a bittersweet decision not to run for council again, but I'm very excited to be going to grad school in January. And so I won't have a vote at the table very shortly. I will continue to serve my community in new ways as a future social worker. I wish the next council all the best in the years ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hamilton. Any other comments from council members? Councillor Hergert, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you to our council. We have been brave. We've been brave when we didn't even expect we had to be. It's been obviously a growth and learning process. Good luck to the next council that will have to learn 10 times more, I'm sure, as the changes come faster from the province and from the federal government. Good luck. Just read. Stay in touch with your counterparts across Ontario, because sometimes things only happen once in West Grey, and other times they're happening 50 times a year over in another municipality. So connect and reach out to your counterparts. But really, I think our council has jumped by leaps and bounds from where we were 4 years ago. And I challenge the next council to show us where you can take West Grey. So good luck.
Thank you, Councillor Hergert. Any comments? Councillor Hutchison, I know you got to have something there. Go ahead.
Well, I do have a couple items. First of all, I'd like to remind people that the police survey is now on the website, and there's hard copies in the council chamber or at the office if people would like to fill that out. So this is your opportunity to speak regarding our police service. So make sure you fill out a survey. I also like to compliment staff, particularly Cody, for his efforts on the Halloween party on the weekend. It went over very well. Good turnout, great day. I don't know if you got anything to do with the weather, but anyways, it worked out well. So I'd like to comment on that. And I think in the future, I'd like to see us continue to work with the BIA, and I'm not sure if the chamber is involved, but the BIA in particular, to grow activities in our areas and in all of West Grey. And then finally, I'd just like to say farewell to our council members, to Beth and Rebecca and Stephen and Mayor Robinson, who's not here today. It was an unusual year, or 4 years, I should say, with the pandemic thrown in there. And I think over the 4 years, even though we had a pandemic, we did accomplish a lot. And you have summarized a number of the things that we did accomplish. And as a council, a lot of things happened. Thank you to the staff for all your efforts on all the tasks that we tried to accomplish. And yeah, good luck, and we'll miss you. And we look forward to continue to move West Grey forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hutchinson. Councillor Townsend? Okay, good. Well, as chair today, thank you very much for working with me to get through this rather daunting challenge that was here, but we did well. Yeah, I'm not going to say a lot. I echo a lot has been said here about our staff. Thank you very much, the committee, the volunteers, and everything across that we've done. We've had a lot of challenges, and I really look forward to making the next 4 years just as memorable as what we've come through. So I'm going to leave it at that, and I will see you next term. But guess where we're at? Well, we're at adjournment, and I'm going to get Clerk Eckensweller to read the recommendation, and I know where you are there on that one.
Through the Deputy Mayor, that we do now adjourn at 11:59 a.m. to meet again on November 1st, 2022 at 3 p.m. or at the call of the chair.
Thank you. And I do see acknowledge Councillor Hergert as the mover and seconder. I will call on Councillor Hamilton. Okay. You're withdrawing now, right? Okay, so call the vote, all to adjourn. All members are in favor, none opposed. We stand adjourned. Thank you.